when Lincoln dies, there's going to be a new president that comes to power. Now, this is going to be something that's a little strange. We've never had a president who had died, resigned, or been removed from office before this. We're not even really sure who it's supposed to be. So let me ask you guys. Today, if the president dies, resigns, or is removed from office, who takes over? Vice president. Who's next? Go. Speaker of the House. Who's after that? Now it gets a little messy. So, President Pro Tem of the Senate. Then who's next? Secretary of State, Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of Defense. Goes all the way down the list of our 15 departments. We have 18 people in line just in case something happens. In 1865, we don't know. We have to figure it out. Yes, Andrew.
One of them has to always know.
The designated survivor?
Yeah.
Just in case there's a disaster. It's always just drawn randomly. In 1865, power is just going to fall to someone. Or we don't have anything in place, but this does set the precedent of who's going to take over. Andrew Johnson, Lincoln's vice president, will take over the presidency. Now, Andrew Johnson is going to fill this vacuum as best he can. But he is by no means the leader that Lincoln was. He is by no means the warrior that Lincoln was. He's going to have to do what he thinks is right. But there is a big problem with Johnson. He's a Southerner. Now, I need to ask first. In 1864, when Lincoln's running for re-election, he gets to choose who his vice president's going to be. He picks the one Southern member of Congress that's left to be his running mate. Why on earth would Lincoln pick a Southerner to be his running mate, do you think? What do you think, Rob?
So that like, I like to stop to tell. Like I took him to do something.
I hear what you're saying. We have to kind of play the political game. Now, that might be appeasement. You're absolutely right. But Heather, what do you think? Perhaps it's just the border states. Absolutely. Could be it. What else is there? Why does this look good? What do you think? Here's Lincoln saying, I'm choosing the Southerner because I want unity. Remember what Lincoln always said about the southern states. You never left. You're just mad. He chooses this Southerner to be his vice president, not knowing that he would ever actually take power. Johnson is from Tennessee. He was raised in Tennessee, a slave state that left the Union, that has yet to come back. And he loves his home state of Tennessee. He favors the South. Yeah. So, why does John? It's a great question. Really what it is they were trying to decapitate the federal government. Booth, because we didn't really know who was going to take over. It was always thought the vice president would. But who knows? It's designed to create chaos. It's designed to spark the Civil War again. Now, there is a little window into Johnson's mind as to what he thinks about Reconstruction. When Johnson becomes president and he is immediately charged with a plan for how to bring the southern states back, he says, white men alone must manage the South. Now, like I say, this is a nice little window into what he thinks. So let me ask you first. Who's left out of this statement? Who do we kind of see left out? Anna, who do you see?
Probably now.
Excellent. What he says is really, we have this whole new group of people that we have to integrate into society. And remember, he's a Southerner. He's from Tennessee. He saw slavery. It was an institution. And he says, if we're ever going to get the South back in the Union, white men alone must manage the South. What he's going to do is really set a precedent to say, these newly freed slaves, they don't know how democracy works. They don't know how economics works. We need to rely on the people that do know how this works. Who is he kind of suggesting being put in power in the South? We gotta go beyond just white men. What's the next step here? Who does know how the government works? Bro, what do you think? Drunk right track. Who has seen the government work before? Do you know anything? Northerners? Yeah, he doesn't want the Northerners in the South. Who does he want to put back in power? Ron, what do you think? He's basically saying the people who were in power before the Civil War, put them back in power. Now I should ask, is there a potential problem here? Yes. There are all sorts of pitfalls with this. Johnson is simply thrust into the position of being president, and all but immediately people are asking him, how are you going to bring the southern states back? Being a southerner himself, he says, the southern states can come back to the Union as long as they do three things. Now, we're going to get to those three things. But first, we got to take a little bit of a deeper look into Johnson's situation. Let's just look very superficially. He's a southerner. He wants the southern states back, but he wants to make it as easy on them as possible. He wants to put even more cherries on top to bring the southern states back. But he does have a bit of a problem. He inherits the presidency, and there's a group of people across the streets that immediately don't like him. Who has all the power in Congress? Which political party? Republicans. Where are all the Democrats? They're in the South. They seceded. He's a Democrat. Basically, everyone in Congress immediately doesn't like him. He has to play the political game here. So let's keep that in mind as we talk about his plan. Now, first off, what he says is, I want the South to come back to the Union as easy as possible. One real easy way for the South to come back to the Union is going to be something we've seen before. As soon as 10% of your state's population swears allegiance to the Union, you're on your way back. Where have we heard this plan before? This was Lincoln's plan. Now you have to keep in mind, Lincoln was a Republican president, the first Republican president. He's very popular. He just won the war. He has these Republicans across the street in Congress backing him up to a certain extent. Now you got a Democrat saying, as soon as 10% of your population swears allegiance to the Union, you're on your way back. Now let me say this. Were there some people that didn't like Lincoln's plan? Who did not like Lincoln's plan? Who was there? Easy, who was there? The Confederates didn't like it. There were plenty of people in the North that said, that's too easy. We need something harsher. Something else. Yes, Ron? A lot of soldiers say, that's too easy. We can't have that. Lincoln was really good at being a politician, though. He could sell this idea. Johnson doesn't have that. He's got to do as best he can to play this political game. Second thing, he says, once 10% of your population swears allegiance, you're on your way back. But I gotta make it a little bit harder. I gotta make these Republicans back me up. I gotta make the Union back me up. I gotta make the soldiers back me up. So he says, one other piece. You southern states have to withdraw your secession. What do you think it takes to withdraw their secession? A vote? Not even. It's a good thought. Not even. You know what it takes? Paperwork. A signature. The governor simply says, we're no longer seceded. How easy is this? This part. Pretty easy. How easy is this? Pretty easy. Now I should ask, at least with just these two things, is it harsher on the South than Lincoln's plan? I mean, I guess. Maybe just a tiny bit. So now here's Johnson saying, I gotta do something to make it stick. I gotta get support from these Republicans. Third thing he says is, these southern states have to accept the 13th Amendment. Now, the 13th Amendment is going to be passed even while Lincoln's alive. Now, I want to ask you, what does the 13th Amendment do? What does it do? It abolishes slavery forever. Now, again, let's sort of play the game here. He's a Southerner. He wants the southern states to come back to the Union. Is this maybe the harshest part about his whole plan on the South? Yes. This is a tough pill to swallow. So again, let's play the game. Is slavery coming back after the Civil War is concluded? So is slavery basically just done already? What is happening when the South ratifies the 13th Amendment? Is it any different from really just what happened at the end of the war? Slavery's gone. It's done. This just makes it official. So now let's kind of pull everything together. Is this harsher on the South than Lincoln's plan? Yes. Is it tough on the South? Not really. Here's where we're going to see Johnson show his true colors. He says, Southern states, if you just accept these three things, we're going to give you billions and billions of dollars to rebuild. And because you're a state again, states, as written in the Constitution, cannot declare war. Which means all the debt that you have from fighting the Civil War is null and void. The federal government will absorb your debts from fighting the Civil War. You're not allowed to have war debts. So in one hand, here's billions and billions of dollars to rebuild, and we're going to absorb billions of dollars in war debt. Is this a pretty good deal for the South? This literally saves them. And this is just rough numbers because you'll never really know. In today's dollars, let me see if I can do this real fast. In today's money, it would be about $4 trillion. Here's $4 trillion as long as you just do these three things. If you're a Southerner, are you liking Johnson? The South loves Johnson. But he has a big problem. There are people across the streets in Congress looking at him and saying, we're not stupid. We know what you're doing. You can't get this plan going without Congress's approval. All but immediately, this Republican-dominated Congress looks at him as the enemy.